Hello everyone, my name is Protesilaos, also known as Prot. In this video, I want to show you how to call any Emacs command from outside Emacs and have that command work in a pop-up frame, which then disappears after you are done with the command. Just to say that the code I have here will be available on my website. So if you are watching this on the video hosting platform, there will be a link in the description and you can find all the code there. The code is also available as part of my Emacs configuration. There is a literate version of it, which is on my website. It's also available as part of my .dot files, so you can find everything there. Let's now go straight into this functionality, and I want to demonstrate the feature and then walk you through the code. So let me minimize this window over here, this frame over here. So I am doing that, and now what I want to do, you see my mouse over here, it's in the middle. What I want to do is hit a key binding, which I have assigned for my operating system here, a key binding that will bring up a pop-up Emacs frame that will run org capture in this scenario. So let me do that. I have it assigned to super and the letter O. Super and the letter O. And you will see that this is the org capture interface. Here it is asking me to select one of the templates that I have. So I will just type, let's say, U, and I can now write what I have here. This is a test, and there we have it, and this template is good to go. So I am at the stage with org capture where I can type Control C, and file in this entry that I have created. I have arranged so that when I do that, the frame, which is a pop-up frame, will disappear. Let's see this in action. Control C, off it goes. So let me do this again. Super and the letter O. We are again in this frame. I have arranged so that this dismissal of the frame, this deletion of the frame, happens not only when we complete the action, but when we also abort the action. So let's say that here I change my mind and I'm like, you know what? I actually don't want to do an org capture now. So let me do Control G. So Control G, off goes the frame, it disappears again. And I have it, let me do it a third time. I have it so that this will work, this Control G, will work also while we are in the process of filling in the template, like here. So if I type Control G here, again, the process is terminated and the frame is deleted. So let's go back to my Emacs over here. And now I want to walk you through the code to understand the rationale and for you to be able to extend it based on what I have over here. So first, we have this function over here, which is very, very simple. It will check if the current frame has this parameter over here. And if this parameter has a non-nil value, a true value. And the idea is, if the frame has this parameter, which I specify, we assume that this is a pop-up frame. And so we are like, you know what? Delete that frame. This is all this function does. And the idea here is that we want to have this function assigned to a hook. We don't want to call it manually. We want it to be a part of some hook so that it does what it needs to do at the right time. Let's go now down to the Emacs Lisp macro over here, which is kind of the secret sauce. And what this does is it defines a new interactive command. So a new interactive function, rather. An interactive function is a function that we can call with mx, or we can assign to a key binding. And the idea here is we want to have a function that will do the following. And here is the logic of it. It will create a new frame. And this new frame will have this specific parameter I told you about. This is just an arbitrary name. It is something that should be unique, so it shouldn't interfere with other packages or with something that may be built into Emacs. So what you call this parameter doesn't really matter so long as it is unambiguous, so that you don't get any false positives. So we have this, and then we are like, select the frame that we just created. And here, we actually want to switch to that frame so that we can work in that frame. Let me now type super O so that you see what I mean. Super and the letter O. You will see that my focus is on this pop-up frame. So I do I do U here. This is another test, for example. Enter. Control C, and off it goes. It filed it in, and it dismissed the frame again, okay? So I want to select the frame. I want this side effect to happen. Now, here is the thing. When we create a new frame, we have to be in some buffer. If we are not in any buffer, the frame will drop. It will close again. So here what I do is I switch to a hidden buffer. Hidden buffers in Emacs are those whose name starts with an empty space, like this. So this is not a typo, this is intentional. And then of course the buffer has a name which again is unambiguous. And the idea is that this buffer will never be seen normally. So when you are switching buffers, you will never see this buffer. But it is there to serve as a placeholder for the frame to stay alive. And then comes the magic, which is that we want to call interactively the given command. In this case, I showed you org capture. I will show you another example that I have, but any command that we give it. And we wanted to call that command interactively, so as if we had done Emacs or used it via a key binding directly. And what we do here with this condition case is we are like, okay, normally I want you to run this command interactively, but if we get a signal that is quit, error, or user error, what I want you to do instead is to delete the frame and delete the given frame that we have created and whose object we have stored, and so we know it unambiguously. This is the idea. So normally do this, but if something wrong happens, then do this other thing of deleting the frame. Okay? So this is an Emacs Lisp macro. And so what this will do, if we go a bit further down, and we will see here is the macro, it is called, and what this will do is it will create a new function, an interactive function, which will look like the following. Let me do mx pp, and then I want to do macro expand last symbolic expression, like this. pp macro expand last symbolic expression with my cursor at the end of this macro call. So I want to see what this macro expands to. What is the template it fills in? What is the actual code? So I do this, and this will produce a new window, and it will put the code, the actual code, over there. So I see now that this is creating a new function, and this is the name of the new function. And I can actually do mx and the name of this function, and it will work. It has this docstring, and then it has the actual code that we have over here, okay? So it works as expected. Let's dismiss this. So I am creating this function, and then I am actually calling this function from outside Emacs. We will see that part a bit further down. The final piece for this to work at all times, so we already delete the frame when we have some kind of error or a quit. But we also want to delete the frame after we are actually done. And this is where the hook comes into the picture. Here, because this is org capture, we have this hook, the org capture after finalize hook, and we say, you know what? After we are done capturing and we have filed this new entry, I want you to call this function. Remember that function, which was deleting the frame? I want you to call this function, and we are good to go. This is the idea. And so this will always be dismissing the frame which has this parameter, and this parameter is only introduced through the specific functions that we create. So it should be all good. Let me show you another function that I have created, this time with my TMR package. TMR is a package that allows you to set timers. It actually has a lot of interesting features. I haven't done a video about it. I might do at some point. But here I want to just call the TMR command. And I want to call it in this scenario that we have already covered through the macro. And you will notice that I have a hook again. So this time I will do super and the letter T. And this brings up this pop-up frame, and I get the TMR prompt here, which asks me for a time to set for the timer. And one of the ways here that you can set the timer is you can do something like 5S, and this means 5 seconds. There are actually many ways. You can check the official documentation. So I will do 5 seconds, and I will hit enter. See, the frame has disappeared, and now I will soon get the timer notification. Here it is. I have a desktop notification up there telling me about the timer, that it has elapsed. I have this in the echo area as well, and there was also an alarm sound playing. I don't know if this is captured in the recording, but it's definitely there. So if you run this locally, you will find it there as well. The point is, this worked as intended. It produced the new frame. I was able to create the timer. The frame then disappeared, and then I continued on with my business, whatever it is I was doing. Okay, so this is the idea. Now we come to the other piece. For us to be able to connect to a running Emacs session, we need either of two things to be true. Either we have a daemon process running, or we have server mode running. So either of the two has to happen. Personally, I use the server mode. I prefer it because it is self-contained in my configuration. So whenever I start Emacs anywhere, I get the server to do what I want. The server, what it does is it makes sure that your running Emacs instance can be accessed from outside through an Emacs client call. And we will see the Emacs client call right below. It doesn't matter though what you do, if it's the daemon or if it's the server. Whatever you do, you need something like this to be in your configuration so that you can use Emacs client. And then we have something like this, Emacs client. So this you call it on the command line, or you assign this to a key binding, or you put it in a shell script, however you go about it. But the idea is we call this from the command line, Emacs client, and then -e means evaluate. And here we want to evaluate this function that we created via the macro, remember? So it's this or this other function. So let me actually start a terminal. Can I make this larger somehow? There has to be some way. Okay, no, not that large. Okay, I want it to be visible, but let's see. So I want to come here and I want to copy this into the terminal. I'm doing it outside of Emacs just so that you see that this is exactly what we want. Okay, so from outside of Emacs in a terminal, I am calling this. So I will hit enter. And here I am, same idea. And this is another test, folks. This is the idea. Enter, Control C, and off it goes, and it closes, and I am back to where I was. And you just assign this to a key binding at your system level, at the level of your desktop environment, and then you enjoy your life, and basically that's it. So let me close this terminal. As I said, the code that I have here is available on my website. You will find a link to it in the description. You can also find everything that I do about Emacs there, all my packages, all the publications, etc., including my Emacs configuration. So you can see that as well. That's all for today, folks. Thank you very much for your attention. Take care and goodbye for now.